Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome back to Canadian Cutting Edge, and this January we're looking at several knives. I did an unboxing and I asked which knife you guys wanted to see reviewed first. This or the Justice, or, well, the Justice came in second. Let's just say this came out first, and a number of people mentioned the Justice but didn't say they wanted to see the review of it first, so that's why the Penguin slip joint won out on that. This knife, the Penguin, it's a design that's been out for several years, and they came out with a slip joint, I don't know, around Blade Show time, I think it was. I forget exactly when it was released, but I finally got my hands on one this winter over Christmas time-ish, and here it is. You want to see the review of this thing? This is the lowest cost version, G10 and 14C28N. You can also get it with micarta and 14C28N, and you can get it with C20V on a blade and fat carbon in several different colors. So I think there's four. Oh, there's more. There's at least 4 budget ways to get it. The lowest budget way, and just spend as much money as you want. If you are interested in seeing the review of this knife, then you're watching this because it was on the thumbnail. That's why you clicked it, right? What was I thinking? Of course you're interested, so stick around. Well, here we have, well, it's not quite an original Penguin, S35VN and micarta handle scales, but basically it's the original Penguin in terms of exactly how it works and how it looks and everything. And there's the slip joint version. These things are as identical as they possibly can be with the 2 different styles of mechanisms in there, except for they could have put a pocket clip on this guy. That might have been nice. Pocket clip on a slip joint knife. I know it's not traditional, but it sometimes comes in handy, depending on how you want to carry it. Other than that, it's the exact same, well, not exact same, because nothing's exact, is it? It's very, very much the same size. You know, it's very, very close to the same thing as the original. I've seen some QSP advertising stuff saying, you know, it's under 3 inches. Well, it's not. It depends on how you measure blade length. If you measure blade length as in cutting edge length, it's under 3 inches. But it's just over 3 inches if you measure it from the tip to the closest spot you can reach on the handle. 3.03, I think it was. I'll give you the exact measurements later on in the video. This is what you get here. You got 14C28N stainless steel. Now there are versions of the slip joint that are higher end versions, you know, with fat carbon and 20CV steel. But the base versions have the 14C28N and G10 or micarta. You choose. And then, of course, the blade finish comes in different ways. This is the satin finish with the vertical sanding lines instead of the horizontal ones, which is vertical is the most common, so that's nice. I like that. A couple changes on the blade. No thumb stud like there is on the original. And there's a nice fuller on both sides, which I really like an awful lot. That's instead of a nail nick, much better than a nail nick. And we've got this forward finger choil here as well. Other than that, you know, the blades are, you know, if we put them back to back, they go up basically identical. Like there's not much different here at all. The thickness of the steel is very much the same. The thickness of the cutting edge is very much the same. The bevel here is the same, comes pretty much the same distance up the spine. Maybe a little bit steeper here because there's room for the fuller. You know, here there's not quite as much shoulder room up there. Badging's nice and small, just like it is on the original. Actually, this badging is a tiny bit bigger than this one. Well, I guess because that line is a little bit bigger. But still, the badging's not too big, which isn't a problem. We got that sheepfoot design. Almost a straight edge here. There's a tiny bit of a belly to it, but pretty much a straight edge there. And pretty much a straight spine. Of course, not perfectly that way. And then we've got the classic back spring slip joint mechanism with a half stop. There's the spring coming out, you see that, and it goes to the half stop point, and it's very steady and sturdy right there, and then you can close it all the way. And it's modernized. There's a bit of a stop pin inside there. There you go, you can see it right there. And it touches right in here on this main fuller here for the forward choil for your finger, not fuller, forward choil. And so you can just slam it closed and not worry about the edge impacting the inside of the handle in there and doing damage to your edge. Not a problem at all. So a little nice little modern step. Other than that, the back spring slip joint mechanism is very old school. And the handle, it's the Penguin. It's the Penguin handle. Let's line them up back here. So there you go. It's the same handle. So the same kinds of things I've said about the different reviews of these, it applies here as well. Textured flat slab G10, rounded edges, a big lanyard hole back here. T6 screws back here, just like the original one has, but QSP uses good quality steel. So, you know, I prefer T8, but they're T6 and they're okay. And a T8 up here for the pivot pin. Fits in my hand, and my hands, like I've said, maybe you haven't seen my videos before, my hands are just barely onto the extra large range, and it fits in there just barely, but we've got the forward choil, and then there's even more room. I'd like this forward choil to be just a tiniest bit bigger, but it's quite good. I haven't cut myself on there yet, because I'm pulling back onto this surface here where the handle is with my finger whenever I'm using it, instead of, you know, trying to stretch my finger out. So that's fine, and that's a very comfortable, safe way to hold it. Feels good, and I quite like it. Do you like the design of the Penguin? If not, and you like slip joints, maybe you need to see the video for this guy. This is the QSP Hedgehog. I've been carrying this guy an awful lot. This is just a something I bought from, I think, from Amazon. It's like a tie-off that you can put on like a coat zipper and stuff to make it easier to pull it open with gloves. And that's my little tie-off. And I think this is from the QSP Mustang, if I remember correctly. And it fits in there just perfectly. And I've been carrying this knife probably more than most knives in the last couple of years, a year and a half or whatever, because I just like this thing so very, very much. It's very much the same size as, see, the cutting edge is very much the same size. You know, the knife, very much the same size. It's actually a little bit shorter in total because we don't have the forward choil. We just have the cutting edge and then the handle. But if you're looking for one of these, you know, this comes several ways as well. This one's micarta. And same kind of thing, a fuller up here. It's not a full-length fuller, but works just fine. It's got that half stop. It's got that stop pin. Like that thing an awful lot. So check out the Hedgehog if you're tired of seeing the Penguin, because it's a really, really nice knife. I think I got this a year and a half ago at Blade Show. I think that's where I got it. So it's not an old knife by any stretch. And I think I got to go blow my nose. Next question you're going to ask is, how well does it cut? Well, it cuts okay. It's a good sheepfoot design knife. The edge isn't as thin as I'd like, but that's very common on QSP knives. They tend to go a little bit thicker on the edge than I prefer. We've got a flat main bevel, and then of course that sheepfoot, so the tip can be very handy for, you know, if you need to do some detailed tip work. And then you've got, you know, a nice edge to do all kinds of cutting and stuff. It's not a pokey style knife, of course, it's a sheep's foot, but cutting and slicing works fairly well on this thing. Before I take it apart, and I haven't taken it apart yet at all, I've just done my testing, I'm sure that it's built the same way, you know, as my Hedgehog is, with washers in there. And we'll see that for sure in just a moment when I take it apart. But before I do that, let's go over the prices of this thing. $62.80 US is the price for this in almost every store. White Mountain Knives, you can get 10% off with coupon code CCE. That makes it, what, $56.52, which is around $76.80 Canadian, roughly, something like that, depending on what day, of course, because exchange rates are always changing. And then, of course, they got the higher end versions. Those are almost 200 bucks. What is it? $194.85, $195 US. And of course, you save 10% off that as well. If you want to buy this in Canada, Blades Canada's got the best price that I could see, $84.99. House of Knives might have it. And the higher end version with the fat carbon and 20 CV It's what, $264.99, something like that. And so yeah, that's the price. I did look up, you know, because the UK you can get slip joints. It's around 50 pounds, 50 British pounds for this knife. I'm not going to cover every jurisdiction. You can take a look at how much it costs where you live, but I'll leave links down below for a number of places to make it easy for you to find them. I don't know if any of those will be referral links or not. I don't earn anything if you use a coupon code at White Mountain Knives. It saves you 10%, and that's all that's all that code does. So some people feel happy when they tell me, I've used your code, and I'm going, okay, great, but it really doesn't help me. It helps you when you use the code. White Mountain Knives does give me a small discount when I buy knives to review, but that discount is not linked in any way, shape, or form with how many people use my coupon code. Let's take this thing apart and see how, actually, before we take it apart, let's just take a look at it. Here's a T6 screwdriver, and let's see. Very little play in those screws. Let me see on this one. There we go. It sinks in. Good depth and just very, very slight play, so that's a good thing. Like I said, they got good quality screws, and again, same thing here. And it's a D-shaped pin or something like that. There's something that stops this pin from turning. Feels like there's Loctite in there. So I'm pushing in. I really like these T-shaped handles. I got these from a store in the United States. I got links for it down below. And I'll put them in the pinned comment as well, the links for this. This is a European screwdriver set, T-handled by LBRY. This specific one is made in Czech Republic. And yeah, there's some dust coming out. See that white dust that fell all over the place? That's the dried up Loctite that's in there. And of course you can see it on the screw as well. And now I'll take these off. And these don't have any, well, they got some blue on there. Just the tiniest little bit of blue. And there we go. It's got some oil underneath there. And there you can see the dark stuff. That's residue from me using the knives. I do definitely test knives using them. And it's that, yeah, see? It's just residue, you know, that got in there from my skin and stuff. This is stainless steel, but a little bit of oil in there does help protect the stainless steel too. So now let's, what am I going to use to get in there? This guy, a little bit bigger. There we go. And there's that stop pin I was talking about before. And yeah, I'm gonna clean all this off completely and get more lubrication in there. It's a little bit dirty. And let me get something. Got a little bit of a rag here, but I'll put that on there instead. And I'll clean that up. But here you can see the washer. It's a nice thin little phosphor bronze washer. Let's use my fingernail to try to lift it up. I don't want to use a tool that might bend it. Well, I might have to use a tool. I'll use a sharp edge of a knife just to get underneath there and gently, there we go. There we go. Very thin little phosphor bronze washer, and there's going to be one on either side. And here you can see how the mechanism works. You know, flat edge on flat edge, holding it closed. And this, well, holding it at the half stop. And the stop pin there stops the cutting edge from impacting back here. And like that. And I don't know if that back spring's pretty strong. I'm not going to take the blade totally off because, you know, then I got to wrap up the cutting edge and stuff to safely put it back together again. But I'm going to clean this all up and I'm going to lubricate in there. And then I'll put the thing back together again. Now, just before I go over the measurements, I forgot to show you before, the blade alignment is very good. It's right down the middle there, just like it should be. So happy with that. Now for the measurements, the weight of this knife, 109 grams, 3.84 ounces. So not very heavy, but built very sturdy. The factory sharpness, I measured it in several places. The average is about 190 bes. Not quite as good as it could be, but that's not a bad measurement for testing the sharpness on my sharpness tester. The cutting edge length, 67.7 millimeters, 2.66 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the handle, 77.0 millimeters, which is 3.03 inches. And the blade thickness, 2.96 millimeters, which is 0.1165 of an inch. The blade depth this way, it's biggest here. It gets a little more narrow all the way along this shaft. These two lines, the spine and the cutting edge, are not parallel. This is the widest point, 23.7 millimeters, 0.933 of an inch. The thickness behind the grind, 0.57 millimeters, 22.5 thousandths of an inch thick just behind the cutting edge. And the grind angles, oh, I didn't do the averaging. I've got my numbers there, but I didn't average it out. I'll put the average on the screen. Like, where's the numbers? Right there, there you go. This side, 24.2 degrees at the heel and 19.6 degrees at the tip. And this side is 22.4 degrees here and 21.0 degrees there. That's 21.7 degrees. I guess I just didn't figure out that one. 4.4 degrees of angle change on the one side and 1.4 degrees on the other side. Very typical of knives in this price category for how well they're sharpened. So there's not a big issue there compared to any other manufacturer of knives. It's just, that's how they're sharpened. You know, you get one, your numbers are going to vary a little bit from that because the sharpening is done by hand. And some more measurements. The handle length of this measurement, 103.4 millimeters, 4.07 inches. The grip area between my thumbs, it's about 85 millimeters, about 3 1/3 inches. If you add the front choil there, it's about 105 millimeters, just a bit under 4 1/4 inches. The thickness of the handle, not on any of the hardware, just on the G10 here, 11.1 millimeters, 0.437 of an inch, so not too hefty at all. The handle depth within the grip area, and this really is made to grip that way, so I'm going to say it's this measurement, 29.2 millimeters, 1.15 inches. When the knife is closed, the widest point is right there. That is 34.9 millimeters, which is 1.37 inches. And the total length of this knife, it's around 180 millimeters. That's slightly rounded, you know, to 1 millimeter. That's 7.09 inches. Pros and cons. What's my summary of this thing? This is an ideal back spring slip joint knife. It's got the proper tension. It's well finished. It's nice and smooth, comfortable in hand, feels good, very nice half stop. Great to have two fullers there, making it easy to open. Decent steel, small badging, stop pin in there to stop it when you go to close it. Well done. The fitment is all good. Would I prefer T8 screws everywhere? Yeah, I'd prefer T8 screws. But these T6 screws are some of the best ones on the market. It's definitely in this price range. So I'd prefer that. Anything else I would like to change on this? Sure, QSP, if you're going to do another version of this, consider doing it with a pocket clip. You know, I know you didn't do that over here either with the Hedgehog. Just make a go of it. Give it a try once. Put a pocket clip on a slip joint knife. I think there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of us that might like it. If you'd like to have a pocket clip on a slip joint knife, leave it in the comments below, and that way QSP might be able to see that and, you know, do that. And of course, like I said, T8 screws all around is what I would like. This is a nice knife. I'm very happy with it. And if you are not into slip joint knives, consider it. Consider slip joint knives. I grew up on slip joint knives. They are very safe when they're used properly. They're not, I don't think they're any less safe than a liner lock knife. They just aren't. It's all about if you learn how to use it properly. If you learn how to use a slip joint knife properly, then you will automatically use this knife properly. Locks can fail on knives. So if you learn not to put pressure on the spine of any knife when you're using it, unless you're doing some, a batoning, if you've got a knife that's designed for that, go ahead. But other than that, there should never be any pressure on the spine of the blade while you're using it, except for while you're cutting through something, but there's more pressure going through it, whatever you're cutting into, than your thumb would put on there. Don't put pressure on the spine of a knife if there's not more pressure on the cutting edge. It's just, if you do that, your slip joint knife will be safe in your hands. Now this kind of slip joint knife, if you use that forward choil, if you do put more pressure on there, it's going to try to close on your finger, which is a fairly safe way to go because it's not going to cut you, except for maybe that heel of the thing might cut you a little bit. And you can get your hand out of the way. Just stay clear of the cutting edge. Stay clear of the cutting edge on a liner lock too. Just stay clear. Huge shout out of thanks to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube member supporters. I appreciate your help an awful lot. And thanks. Yeah, just a big thanks. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.